Good day to you, partner. I'm Steve, and I can already tell that I'll be your best friend in this forsaken camp.
1, 2, 3. Wheat Solo here, aka the Skeleton King. As you know, I've been branching out recently. I still talk about Decrepify a lot. People love that. It's like my thing, you know. Decrepify, lock her up, stop the count, count the votes. People like those 3-syllable chants. So I should just start every. I'm the Decrepify King. How about that? That's gonna be my new slogan. So, I made the video on Corpse Explosion. I had fun. I thought it was pretty impressive how quickly it clears and how much of a full clear you get out of it. As you can see, my only problem were fire immunes, which you actually could deal with if you wanted to. I think skipping them is fine. So we're going to go through kind of my decision on how I ran my skills, and then the gear and the playstyle. In fact, I should probably do skills and playstyle at once because they kind of go over the same thing. And one last quick side note, Fire Golems suck. Do not run pure Fire Golem. The build is so bad. It's basically running Clay Golems, except it costs more, and I think if it clears faster, it clears marginally faster, if it does. It's better than Blood Golems. That's what you can say. Fire Golems it's better than Revives. There you go. Fire Golems are they're the third best summons that Necromancers have access to. That's nice. So the skills. Let's do that quickly. Corpse Explosion has 3 synergies. It's an 80-point skill. Golem Mastery is 20 points. I think Golem Mastery and Curse Mastery are the 2 best 20-point wonders that Necromancers have. I only have one of those with this build, and that kind of goes with the issue of Corpse Explosion in general. With Corpse Explosion, it does physical and fire. Now, you can buff the fire damage with fire facets, so you'd go, well, lower resist would be better, right? Well, yes, but amp damage is the synergy, not lower resist. So you have to max amp damage. Do you? I actually did run max Fire Golem, max Golem Mastery, and then, you know, I cut 1 synergy from Corpse Explosion. I think I cut Desecrate. And it actually still worked very well. The synergy buffs to Corpse Explosion are very minor, but I still think going, you know, full Corpse Explosion is better than going half Corpse Explosion, half Fire Golem. In fact, the Fire Golems are just kind of there because it looks cool. You could run Clay Golems with 20 points in the Golem Mastery, or just have your Revives, because you have to get Revives anyways as meat shields. I do think Fire Golems provide a role, and I think Clay Golems would provide a similar role. The main difference between Fire Golems and Clay Golems with this build is Fire Golems do overall higher DPS, but their physical attack doesn't splash. Now, their Holy Fire does do a nice chunk of splash damage, but in the end, the Clay Golem functionality would beat them in that sense. And then there's kind of the thing, well, if immune to fires are a problem, then Clay Golems could kind of help with that as well, so it is what it is. This build sucks at killing bosses, and Fire Golems are better at killing bosses than Clay Golems most of the time, especially with all your fire facets. So that whole summon tree, you can run it however you want. Back to why I don't run amp and lower resist. Because it's like, okay, so you have to get amp for Corpse Explosion. You have to get Corpse Explosion, Desecrate, Revive. That's 80 points. What are you going to do with your remaining 20 points? You know what I did? I went Golem Mastery. Someone's like, well, why don't you just go lower resist and then go Curse Mastery? Well, you have to spend 4 points to get the lower resist, and then also get Cursed Mastery to 10, which means by the time you actually put points in the lower resist, you only have 6 skill points left over. Actually, since you get 110 skill points, I guess you'd have 16. So yeah, if you cut out the Golem side of things, you could go 16 points about in the lower resist, which would be a juicy lower resist. Now, here's the bigger issue. This build does the damage, especially if you drop Golems, like at all. You would do all the damage, because revives don't do damage. Someone's gonna be like, I don't know, man, you got max revive, you got max desecrate, that's a lot of buffs, that's 15% per skill point. It's nothing. They do no damage, they don't splash. Even if they splashed, they still wouldn't do that much damage. So if you're doing all the damage, but you're applying 2 curses per pact, that means every pack would go like this. Amplify, lower resist, desecrate, that's 3 cast. Corpse explosion, corpse explosion, corpse explosion. By 3 corpse explosions, usually most of a screen is dead. Sometimes it's 4. Here's the issue with having 1 extra cast. If it's 3 corpse explosions to clear a pack, that's 20% more time per pack. Because you go from 5 cast to 6 cast. If you go from 6 cast to 7 cast, it's still 16% slower. So you have to make a decision. What you want to do is, do you really want to waste more time casting curses? You know, I'm the Tri-Curse Necro. I was the guy who ran Max Curse Mastery Season 1 and Season 2. It's great. It's still good for solo play. It's probably overkill. The difference is, my minions are doing the damage and I'm a summoner, so it's okay I'm doing nothing. If the Necromancer is dealing the damage, it's way less okay to not be dealing damage. Now, the reason this build is slower than Poison is because Poison is 2 cast. Blood Warp, Poison Nova. This build, at best, is 5 cast. Now, why is it better than Summons? Well, it's mainly a similar clear speed. It's a bit faster, because to try and... What happens with Summons is you have to Blood Warp multiple times on the same screen, and your skeletons only attack once per second. So usually it takes 2 to 3 seconds per screen. So even if you're only casting Blood Warp and Curses, which, you know, sometimes you don't even cast them all, you'll never compete, because you have to spend a second, and then a second, and then a second, because of the way summons work. It doesn't matter how much damage they do. They could do infinite damage, and it would still take 1 second per pack. And they have a small splash radius. Corpse Explosion blows up the whole screen. So basically, per screen, you can legitimately kill it in 5 to 6 casts. Now with Poison Nova, I actually think they have the same radius, but sometimes Poison Nova is a little wonky and it doesn't seem to poison everything on the screen. So it's about, you know, let's say 4 casts per screen. So that's kind of how Corpse Explosion can get even close to Poison Nova as a solo clear speed, is because it's pretty much, you know, 5 or 6 casts and the screen is dead. And every curse you add is going to make that slower and worse. So, could you run Amp Lower Resist? Yes. If with worse gear, you definitely should. Now, I'm running Meng Songs, I'm running Ormus, I'm running an Andes just for looks, because it looks cooler than Shaco, but you should probably just run Shaco. And, you know, I've got the Mage Fist, the Rising Sun, Skill Rings, try Res Boots. Res is very hard to get with this build because all of your sockets are going to Facets. So try Res Boots are super important. You get to 125 FCR really, really easy, and 125 FCR is a must. If you don't have 125 FCR, you're literally wasting 7 more frames per pack, right? Because of the way cast animations work and saving frames. You need every one you can get. With the gear I have a lot of Penetrate. You know, you get 15% from Meng Songs. You get 30 more from the Fire Facets. You get 15 more from your chest and 3 facets. Then 10 more, right? So all of a sudden, you're already at 25, 40, 55. Plus the Rising Sun, now you're at 77. Or, I'm sorry, 67 Pierce. You could actually go Trang Oul's and get Fire Mastery to get similar results. The problem is your Pierce is going to be a bit lower, and you're going to have trouble hitting 125 FCR, because Main Songs gives 65 FCR, which is just insanity. But that is an option, and it would be much, much cheaper. But you really need plus all skills. So you're going to need that Trang Shield with +1 all skills, and those are actually really expensive because Poison runs them. Anything Poison runs can be expensive because it's a desired build. You could probably skip that and still do good numbers, but just make sure you hit 125 FCR. If you're not at 125 FCR, don't play this. So now you kind of understand the skills and the play style, and you do have some options for summons. Like I said, going more into summons actually works. Corpse Explosion, the synergies do almost nothing. They need to kind of change the skill. I'm not saying buff the damage necessarily. Obviously, you can see it does not work in a group. I don't know why Death Sentry explodes a corpse and it functions in Players 8, and Corpse Explosion explodes a corpse and it doesn't. Just so you know, corpses operate the same. They do not benefit from any sort of health modification or player health modification. They have base health, so something is going on with Death Sentry that obviously Corpse Explosion is not benefiting from. So the last thing I'd like to talk about is what I'd like to see in the future for this build is for them to change the synergies for Corpse Explosion. I'd like to see them either make the synergies more synergetic, as in instead of revives, it's Fire Golems. Just because Fire Golems, although again, they're the third best summon, they're much better than revives. And then instead of Desecrate, which, I mean, you cast Desecrate, but you don't use it for damage, maybe it's Amp and lower resist. I mean, there's still thematic elements there, because Amp damage buffs Corpse Explosion, but hey, some of Corpse Explosion's damage is fire, so why doesn't lower resist buff it? And even though I don't run lower resist, at least you could have the option, and you wouldn't be sinking points into a dead skill. Especially revives. Like, just make it Fire Golems. Or just cut revives. Instead of making it a 3 synergy skill, make it a 2 synergy skill, and just buff the damage to equate out. Like, the build isn't scaring anybody, it's not overpowered. It's just fun to play, and I think it's nice for necromancers to have different options, which is something we desperately need, considering, in the end, all summons function very similarly due to, you know, the 1 second per attack. Poison can't play in a group. Bone can't play in a group. Corpse Explosion can't play in a group. Like, we're not threatening anybody. Bone isn't that fast solo. Corpse Explosion isn't that fast solo. So give us a few more options to play around with, and I think Corpse Explosion would be a great one. And you don't even have to buff the damage necessarily. Just make the build more streamlined and compact, so we have more skill points to use. Either we still have to use 80 for the skill, but you know, they relate to each other better, or cut down the amount of points you have to put into one skill where, you know, we're buffing things that don't help us at all. Or buff revives. Like, do something. Anyways, alright, Skeleton King out. GG.